We're live. Welcome, everybody. I am Zahid from Talks at Innovation Valley, and today we have with us a very amazing guest from Twitter, Lisa Cohen, who is basically a data scientist at Twitter. And today we have a very amazing topic: how to build a winning tech team. So, before we jump to the questions list, Lisa, I really warm welcome you to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to meet you and great to see everybody here.
And Lisa, before we jump to the formal question list, I would request you to please let our audiences know what actually what is your basic education, from where you got your schooling, when you joined Twitter, and what are your interests in journal, and what is the mission of your life.
Wow, big questions. Great. So starting off with the schooling part, yeah, I had always been fascinated in math and science. I love physics and just modeling the world, and in that way, math. So I had my bachelor and master's degree in applied math, and that was a great way to leverage math with various applied sciences, applying math to various phenomenon in the world. I got my degrees at Harvard. And after that, I actually joined Microsoft. I was there for 17 years. I started in Visual Studio in product management, working on C Sharp and Visual Basic. And I had a number of roles there over that time. But I went into data science while I was in Visual Studio and started in performance analytics, business analytics, and various ML applications as we were understanding our user base further. And then I moved into Azure as the cloud was growing. And that's when I led a data science organization for Azure and cloud services. And so there we were, essentially using data to help customers be successful on the cloud. So looking at their onboarding to Azure, what were the successful kind of happy paths versus places of friction, and where folks were experiencing trouble based on what we were seeing in the data, where there were funnel drop-offs or deployment errors, et cetera. And so using that information, we're able to improve the product and increase retention, engagement. We also built a number of machine learning models to help a number of the programs and different teams working in the broader Microsoft and cloud ecosystem best support customers. So for the marketing team to help understand, which were high propensity customers, which are customers that were at risk of churn, so they could engage with them in a more high touch manner. And then also with the support team, for example, to optimize their queues and understand when there was negative sentiment or tickets at risk, so that we could give appropriate attention and care and make sure that customers were unblocked. Also worked on payments, risk, other areas in the funnel, and on a number of different audiences using Azure. After that is when I moved to Twitter. So most recently, I've been head of data science at Twitter. That organization has been leading a team of data scientists, data analysts, and data engineers. And the organization was structured in alignment with the overall company goals and pillars, with one being around health, trust and safety, misinformation, content safety, etc. Another area around growth, which is the overall funnel optimization, onboarding to Twitter, from kind of off platform to the sign up funnel optimization and activation, engagement, and retention. A next core area is the core product experiences. So that's where there's a number of machine learning applications to personalizing the Twitter experience, such as the home timeline content recommender model, the search algorithms, trends and event aggregation, and lots of experimentation across all these areas to try out different experiences and see what works best for users. Then we also had a kind of new innovations area where we're trying out different future products. And so that was things like Spaces, the audio product, subscription models. And there for data science, a lot of like opportunity sizing, establishing product market fit, leading indicator metrics to know that we're heading on the right direction. And lastly, a couple cross-cutting areas such as the company-wide metrics for external reporting as a public company, internal reporting ongoing, and then data engineering also as a cross-cutting area so that we can really connect the data across the teams and understand that holistic user experience and personalize. So if you search for a topic, you also see that reflected.
Very amazing journey, Lisa. So, can you please tell when we talk on the selecting the team members? I mean, you are recruiting the team. What are the essential, key traits and essential capability and skill set that you see into a potential tech team member?
Yeah. Okay. So I often think around like three main big buckets. I can kind of generalize for all team members, and then we can go into specifically for the people managers some areas there. So I think there's the technical skills, the application to domains, and then the soft skills. And so for data science, the technical skills might be querying, statistics, appropriate familiarity with querying languages, experimentation, best practices and techniques, machine learning, data preparation, etc. Application to domain is like to be successful in any of these technical roles, you need to understand the domain that you're applying it to. So understanding the business, understanding the product, the user experience, that's going to really enable you to have the most impactful insights and innovations. And so I think through your career, you can work on different domains. So it's not always necessarily that you are an expert in the specific domain you're going to be working on in this role, but the fact that you've exhibited that you've been able to apply these techniques to a domain in the past and are able to learn different domains as you go as well. And then the soft skills can cover things like communication, influence, collaboration, that you're able to organize and prioritize your work. And then maybe lastly, if we kind of talk about for the people manager roles, there's a number of other specific areas that we'd be looking for in terms of being able to set the team vision, set a 3-year plan, for example, to be able to prioritize the backlog and drive results and quality across the team. We'd also be looking for experience in hiring team members and coaching, giving feedback, performance managing. And then cross-group collaboration, I'd say that actually applies to both the IC and the manager, but to be a strategic thought partner on the roadmap, stakeholder management, and ability to kind of work through challenges, but also build trust and create successful partnerships.
Awesome. So, when we talk on the cultural fit, as a manager, how do you assess the cultural fit of a team member for the team?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple ways to look at that question. One, you want to make sure that they're successful within the environment of the team, but at the same time, you're not looking for like the same copy each time. You want diversity in the different people that join the team. So, but in terms of the first category and things that you're looking for cultural fit, each company is going to have a set of defined values. Competencies for the function or discipline that you're recruiting them for. And so you want to see that they're going to be able to be successful in the company environment and executing on those competencies. And so you'll ask a number of questions to see that they've either demonstrated that in the past or kind of a scenario based, how would you approach this scenario in the future? You're going to look to see that they've worked with others and collaborated well in the past. I think for data science, a few other things that I like to look for is like that they have curiosity. That's how they're going to discover the best insights, creativity, grit to kind of work through different data challenges, for example, growth mindset, how you kind of reflected and learn from past experiences, and a passion for whatever you're going to be working on.
All right. So, when we manage a team, communication is a very key thing. What are the best strategies and tips to make the best within the team so that the things go in smooth and there are no conflicts?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's, communicating in all directions, up, down, out. And so keeping everyone connected. And what are things you want to stay connected and aligned on? You want to have clear vision, priorities, plans, the status of those, if there are changes, to know there are changes and why, clear expectations for each role, and institutional memory. So you're not kind of reinventing the wheel each time. You can learn and build on existing experiences. So I generally recommend, working in the open, being transparent about all these things. Shouldn't have any surprises. I think also having clear priorities and direction is really important for the team. You want to be able to connect what you're doing in your role to the overall company and product plan, and be able to see, what that clear direction is. I think sometimes, if people don't see a clear direction, it becomes really hard to do their role, and hard to stay in that position. So yeah, I think those are a number of the kind of what you want to communicate. As far as the how, there's different approaches, like having Slack or Teams as a regular communication channel, having a document repository where you can share your analysis results. Of course, having your code checked in and preserved, so that folks can build on broader libraries and existing work. Um, I think also, beyond kind of the specific, you know, tools like the communication that we just discussed, or the all hands, that can be useful on a particular cadence, broader team meetings, also a show and share session where you can share what you're working on. I think also just having a culture where people are kind of encouraged to share what's on their mind, to be authentic and share their thoughts. Having a safe space for that is really important for communication in a team as well. You want the communication to be two-way. You don't want it to be just kind of from the leader going out. You want to get feedback. And you also want it to be authentic. You want to understand what's on people's minds so that you can incorporate that feedback, iterate, and be able to speak within the context of what folks are thinking about as well. So I think that's important, and to have strong ties across the team members so that they're communicating is a great way to scale as well.
That's great. And within a tech team or any team, until the team is learning continuously, we cannot grow. So, how do you foster the continuous learning and the growth culture within your team?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I found whenever I do a kind of team values exercise or reflection, I find that's a strong theme that comes through in what folks want to have within the team. They want to be in a place where they can learn and grow. And so I think, yeah, a few things around that. One, sometimes kind of the day-to-day projects can come in the way of being able to step back and thinking about that broader professional development plan. So I think having the regular check-ins with your manager on each, whether it's quarterly, or so that you have those, being able to step back and say, what are the things that I want to learn, what experiences do I want to have in my career. And you can learn on the job, you can learn from training, you can learn from others, and working both on your own, coming up with those ideas, but then also being able to share that with your manager is kind of like a great accountability partner to see that you're also making progress on that. And so I think within those different modalities, there can be projects or opportunities that you and your manager can work together to create that help you get that experience that you're looking to learn and grow into. You can also enjoy different like trainings and courses. And I think for the org leader, it's important to create budget for that so that folks, have shared subscriptions, for example, to Data Camp or Coursera or LinkedIn Learning. There's so many online courses available, or even podcasts like this are a great way to learn what's out there. And then learning from others, having great mentorship and fostering that, whether that's through a formal mentor program or a mentor that maybe you identify or your manager can connect you with, I think is a really healthy way to grow as well. And then lastly, beyond the budget for it, it's also creating the time for it and really celebrating that as part of the team culture. And so I think there's different ways to do that, but you can gamify it a bit and celebrate when folks have achieved different courses, or even just sharing what you're learning. Like I found that sometimes at the end of team meeting, having a segment where you can kind of go around and people can share what they learned this week or an area that they want to learn about. And that can be a fun way to, for example, I found folks on the team really enjoy like doing a course together, is a really nice way to kind of get to know your teammates further and also have a partner to help keep you focused on it. And it's just fun to do in groups.
That's amazing. And you know that technology is changing almost every day. Trust me. So, when you create a tech team, everything is set. But you know that you need to continuously upskill and reskill your team, especially in the tech domain. So, how a tech manager or tech startup founder could ensure that his team is on top when we talk on the tech skills as per the technology is emerging?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it goes to a lot of themes that we were just discussing, like being able to identify what those themes are, whether it's, the team wants to have more experience in um, forecasting or recommender models, large language models is a lot of focus currently as well. And so I think being able to identify, what is that trend, or maybe it's, more experimentation techniques that you want to grow further within the team. Um, Creating resources, like we'll often create a resource guide of recommended courses for folks to take. Often they're even created within the team, like onboarding resource guides are really important as well. Um, so it's kind of both the onboarding and then kind of the ongoing learning within the group. So I think there's kind of upskilling within the existing team, and we talked about a number of ways to do that with the previous question. I think also, if you're really having a new need within the team, I think often, bringing on board an expert with experience in that space is great for the broader team as well, to be able to learn from and partner with and have mentorship. So I think kind of a combination of the upskilling and recruiting works well together.
Amazing. And you know that innovation and creativity is very core when we talk on the technology. So how do you ensure that innovation and creativity within your team?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a great question because that's really where you see the most impactful investments and results, is when you really can have time and space for the team to innovate. And it's kind of sometimes separating the important from the urgent, because it's very important to have that innovation in the team as well. I think a number of companies have different approaches for this. Like Google is known for like the 20% time. You can have dedicated teams for this, or a dedicated time that everybody spends across the team. I find, yeah, as much as you can create some structure around it, that works really well as well. Like sometimes in the roadmap, we'll have the defined areas that we know we're going to tackle, but we might also have an area that we kind of, at a high granularity, we've defined as a priority. Like we want to, achieve greater retention for new users. But then we really give the team space within that broad umbrella to innovate and explore, because it takes some, exploratory analysis and kind of stepping back and being creative and thinking about all the patterns and connections that we've seen. And that helps kind of generate new ideas. Or sometimes, something might have been framed as like a business intelligence question, but we can kind of step back and say, well, what's the ultimate goal we're trying to accomplish? And maybe there's another technique or innovation we could use that's actually, 10 times more impactful at accomplishing that. And I think creating a good like flywheel and examples of those it creates great momentum for this as well. So when you have examples within the team where there's been innovation, there's new ideas from the team that have, resulted in large roadmap changes or successful business results, really celebrating those. I think that gives the team confidence that, taking time for these longer lead projects is recognized, expected. You can put that into the career stage profile as well. And then it also gets the partners on board to give the team more time to do those types of activities. At Twitter, we actually had a specific work stream. It was called the understanding work stream, to really step back and kind of understand the customers more deeply and see what insights arise and what new hypotheses might come up from that. So I think those are a number of factors to instill that culture.
All right. And as a tech team leader, you have to communicate with a lot of teams. For example, legal team, marketing team, sales team, business team, design team, etc. So, as a tech team leader, how what are the challenges when you communicate with a lot of teams, and how a team leader can face and manage those challenges?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think one aspect you just mentioned is the scale. So I think having the right forums and communication channels, like we would set up company leadership forums across all with the leads of all those functions to have awareness across. I think kind of setting that across the leadership team, then a lot of that information can cascade within the groups. But then I think another aspect of the question you raised is, all these groups are experts in different areas working in different fields and kind of have a different terminology, whether it's like the legal terminology versus engineering terminology. And so I think just being able to kind of create that translation layer and communicate across the technical concepts to, well, what is the significance of the finding and what is the salient data point that I can share without going into all the details, and really communicate within their language. So within their context, get to know your audience, and use that terminology to communicate your point. And I think that creates, trust and clarity, and communication across. And
Right.
maybe lastly, just setting up, as much as you have shared goals and interests across the groups, that creates great alignment as well.
All right. So, what what general advice you would give to the tech leaders that build their team? I mean, what are the common mistakes that tech leaders do when they build their team, and how they can avoid those common mistakes?
Sure. Yeah, maybe if we think about kind of new manager scenarios or gotchas that come up, maybe one is hiring for folks that are just like yourself, whereas you want to actually have a team that complements you and can, excel in other areas to kind of create that portfolio across the team. Maybe another common gotcha that comes up is still trying to do your role as an individual contributor. Um, and I think depending on the span of control, the number of people that you have reporting to you, that will vary kind of the percentage of time that you'll spend on that. But as your team grows to a certain number, you'll be spending more of your time in the manager role. I think also kind of trying to do everything, not being clear about what to say no to is another challenge that comes up. And so having clear priorities, knowing which fires to prioritize. Another one that comes up is not doing performance management, maybe not feeling comfortable being direct or sharing important feedback for fear of disturbing the team member. But it's really nicest to be open about the feedback and helping the team member grow, of course, in a empathetic and respectful way. But I think providing quick feedback is best so that folks are really empowered to build on that and improve. Um, let's see. Maybe another one is I would put as a reminder is remembering to have strong management and IC career paths. I think sometimes, in organizations, folks might think that the only way for me to continue to grow is to move to a manager path. But I think having senior ICs in the team is really important for a lot of things we were discussing earlier, to have that innovation and creativity. And so fostering both. And then lastly, a reminder I would put is just to, kind of think beyond your defined role. You're not competing with your peers. You should be like supporting your peers. That's a great way to, think more strategically across the business and to build a broader organization as well.
All right. Everybody wants to grow. As a team leader, how do you ensure that the only organization is not growing, company is not growing, but the team member, all the employees are also growing? So how do you ensure that team is also growing with the company?
growing in terms of their skill set. Is that what you mean by that?
Um, yeah, skill set and financially.
Ah, okay. Okay, in terms of professional development. Um, yeah, I think for one, like getting to know all of your directs, what are their goals? What do they aspire to? What are the challenges that they're working through? What are their passion? What's the path that they're looking for? So across the org, we set up talent management. And so that's a great complement to the regular career discussions that you're having with your manager, where at each check-in, you should be kind of reflecting on, what you accomplished, what are some challenges that you faced, any learnings from that, what are your goals in the next period, and what are the learning and development activities that you're going to set up to really be proactive and ensure you achieve that. And so I think that's a really important conversation. I think it's important to have it documented. I think it's one thing, it's great to have the quick feedback in person, but there's something about writing it down that I think just has a further impact. And it's something that we can kind of look back on period to period and see how well we're achieving that goal. And then again, the talent planning is a way that we can look across the leaders, across the team members, and for each member really say like, hey, look at the goals that they have. What are the things that they need to help them achieve their next goal, whether it's getting to the next level or learning a specific skill or having a certain experience. And that way across the leadership team, we can really be investing in the broader team as itself. And maybe also keeping an eye if there's like any barriers for certain level promotions, understanding why that might be, investing in the promo committee process, being transparent about what the expectations are to reach certain levels, perhaps like holding a panel or a forum for folks who have accomplished that and being able to share about their experience is a helpful process as well.
Right. And you know that I think there is no team where there is no conflict. So when we come to the conflict, as a tech team leader, how do you manage, how do you fix, and how do you avoid those conflicts within the team?
Sure. Um, yeah, I mean, I think we're recruiting folks with diverse backgrounds and different perspectives. That's part of the goal, to be able to see things in a different view so we come up with the best ideas. But yes, at times it can lead to conflict. I think, first just trying to understand what the conflict is about rather than making assumptions. As a leader, I think you need to be careful also about, not trying to take sides, but just kind of getting an objective view from each of the members regarding what their point of view is, but then bringing them together in an objective fashion. Let's say there's two approaches we're considering and we're trying to decide which one to go with. I try to kind of remove names so it's not like A's plan versus B. It's like you describe the methodology and then you kind of debate the methodology, and that kind of takes it away from being as personal. And being able to kind of just discuss it in a very objective and structured way, like what are the goals that we're trying to accomplish, which approach will help us achieve that best, and then resolve that together, and document what are our principles, how did we work through and make this decision. I think is a good way to proceed, and then we can look back. So next time a similar question comes up, we can refer to it. Of course, there's many other questions we'd get to tackle as well. I think it's important. I think, different companies have different approaches for this. Amazon has like the disagree and commit, for example. But I think it's important to be able to have that discussion and be able to move on, and everybody understands why we took the approach that we did. And we can acknowledge kind of the pros and cons of the different proposals that we considered. But I think it's also important as a leader. Well, I mentioned like not trying to take sides. At the same time, you don't want to let issues fester. You need to be accountable to take action on these things. And, ideally the team members can work things out themselves. That's the best outcome. But yeah, if it does come to a point where they're not able to resolve, to be able to have an escalation path. Maybe it's about like not understanding roles and responsibilities. And at some point you need kind of the leader to help, maybe the team members can help create a proposal and the pros and cons of different approaches, but you need someone to make a call. And I think it's important to be attentive to those kind of issues so that people aren't kind of left in a holding pattern in the group. But yeah, I think those are all important aspects. And yeah, if you think about kind of building a team, having a team of both strong individuals, but individuals that work well together is important for the overall team productivity.
And Lisa, how do you promote diversity and inclusion in your team?
Sure. Yeah. I think there's a few different elements of this. I think one is on the recruiting side, bringing in diverse talent. And so maybe I'll start there. There we look for a variety of dimensions on diversity, whether it's gender, race, geography, different technical backgrounds. So we can look at problems with different perspectives. And so I think those are all important to make sure that we're representing our user base and having those broad sets of ideas. So in terms of recruiting for diversity, there are a number of best practices out there from reviews, or there's tools you can use to on a job description to ensure that it's attracting a diverse pool. Then through the hiring process, having a diverse slate of candidates to consider for the role. We've also done paired interviewers at Twitter, and some groups at Microsoft are doing that as well, to ensure that there's no biases regarding like the interviewer perspective. Having multiple folks there helps, and it's also a nice way for the interviewee to get to meet more members of the team. Having a diverse interviewer panel is important as well. Let's see, then kind of through the hiring process, like having a clear rubric or expectation so that it's less subjective across interviewers, are a few aspects I've mentioned there. We've also been able to think about, where do we have gaps in our diversity, and kind of how can we have targeted motions, whether it's through events with a certain, like recruiting events with a certain community that we're trying to recruit, or certain geographies that have more of that aspect of diversity, certain schools or institutions that we want to recruit from, and having kind of alumni help do mock interviews with that group to help them consider this path as well. So a number of aspects on the hiring side. Then once you bring folks in, I think there's also an aspect around helping them be successful, the inclusion side. And so we talked a bit about the communication aspects before, of having a safe space for unformed thoughts, where folks can share their ideas. And I think it's a really important aspect, because it's a shame to kind of bring in this broad diverse set of individuals, but then not really get to learn their perspectives if they feel like unsafe, or that it wouldn't be valued to share their idea. So ensuring that there's a way for folks to communicate in different types of communication approaches. Like some might like to speak on the spot, others might prefer writing more. I think given that we're really working in distributed models more than ever, having async communication is really important for different time zones. At Twitter, we had a lot of documents with like documented comments, and that's a great way you could have a rich conversation, and it's all tracked and easy to go back, and you could really have deeper thinking that way as well. At Microsoft, we also used kind of the document-led meetings and would share documents in advance. So anyway, these are all just tips or techniques that you can use to have broad participation. And then lastly, I think you have to have role models like at all different levels of the organization, so that if people can see someone like themselves in various roles, it helps them know that that is a path for them. And so we keep an eye on that in the talent planning and succession planning, to ensure that we have diverse talent at all levels. It's also something that we look for in terms of biases when we have annual performance reviews or promotion reviews, and you can kind of put different slices on the results to see, are we promoting different gender races at the same rate? Are we rewarding folks within the same job category and level fairly and appropriately? So those are.
Last question is not a question actually. What general advice would you like to give to the new entrepreneurs? Any inspiring message that could make them motivated and make them do the action and start doing what they actually thought and what they.
Yeah, the last question about how to inspire tech leaders for what to do next. I think, yeah, thinking about what you're passionate about, what you want to work on. That can be a specific mission, a product need that you want to fulfill, a specific technology area that you want to leverage that can kind of guide, where you focus. But typically, like a successful product, it's one where you don't just have technology for the sake of technology, but it's applied towards a core user need. So I think finding a mission that you're really excited about, and that whenever you have that passion, you're gonna do your best work, and it will bring out more creativity and innovation. And so, yeah, I think that's maybe a key aspect that I would lay out. And then as a leader, we talked about a lot of different tips today, but figuring out your own authentic leadership style, trying out different things, see what works, developing a culture that you feel that you align with the values, and can drive that through for your broader organization.
Perfect. Trust me, Lisa, it was so awesome and insightful conversation from your side. And I'm sure that our audience will learn a lot out of all this podcast. And
Wonderful. Thanks for the
I'm
great
sure,
questions.
yeah, and I'm sure this will not be the last podcast. Hope in the future we will have more.
Sounds great. Well, great talking with you today.
Thank you so much for joining.